Hello, everyone. This is Political Chit Chat, and I'm your host, Gonzalo Duran. Today's honored guest is Mario Nicoletto and Chris Reid from the New York Young Republicans Club. Gentlemen, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Now, Mario, since you've been here on the show, this is your first time. If you can just give a little bit of introduction of yourself.
Absolutely. My name is Mario J. Nicoletto. I'm the campaign's chairman for the New York Young Republican Club. And in the past, I've been involved with a variety of different young Republican organizations in terms of grassroots organizing, in terms of field direction, in terms of coalition building. And that's really my bread and butter. It's what I intend to do here in New York City.
And Chris?
My name is Chris Reid. I'm the chairman of the New York Young Republican Club Bronx Caucus. I've also done work with the Bronx Conservative Party, and that's it.
Well, these two men are pretty humble in their achievements, but we'll leave it at that for now. Since you guys are both from the New York Young Republican Club, would you talk a little bit about the club and its objective?
Absolutely. The New York Young Republican Club has been established in 1911. Although we've been around since the 1850s, 1860s, we were one of the first clubs to endorse Abraham Lincoln for his run for the presidency, and we are the oldest and largest young Republican club in the country. In terms of our objective, it's extraordinarily simple. Our objective is more or less to get more Republicans in the city elected, like Mr. Duran. And like our city council, for example, we have George Sarantopoulos in a very contested race against some socialist 29-year-old living in her basement, more than likely. And we have Ramses Frias in District 25 of the city council. People that otherwise would have been thought as long shots are now looking to be, are now achievable. And that's what my role is with the campaigns committee. Our goal overall is to encourage a Republican culture and to encourage a counterculture, because New York City has been run into pieces by the left for the better side of, I'd say, half a century. So our main goal, Gonzalo, is to create a counterculture that promotes republicanism, not globalism.
And that's because, one, which you just mentioned, that the Democrats have been pretty much in charge of New York City for quite a bit, decades now, and you as the main faction of the New York Young Republicans, because now Chris is here representing the Bronx Caucus, which there are many caucuses. Chris, would you like to talk about the Bronx Caucus for a moment?
As chairman of the Bronx Caucus, the objective is very simple. It's to raise the Republican profile in the boroughs that are a little bit, let's just say a little bit more blue than the others, right? There's more hope for a Republican presence in other boroughs, but the Bronx, for a multitude of reasons, is not exactly up to par in terms of representation of Republican politics. And, for me, it's like I said, it's a multitude of reasons as to why that is. And our initiatives have gotten us into a little bit of trouble, as you know. And, by the old guard. But, I've said it 100 times, the objective of my caucus is not to compete with the old guard, but to complete what they have failed to continue.
Well, you can't make omelet without breaking some eggs, right?
That's very true.
Well, with that being said, the thing that I think you guys missed, and once again, you guys are very modest here, when it comes to the club, is the demographics, 18 to 40, which is an age group that everybody is trying to get. But you guys, because you focus strategically on that, you guys have, the numbers have increased, maybe tenfold since the last 3 years?
Something like that. We're approaching 2,000.
Yeah, so now you have a growing number, you have more presence in the community, you're breaking apart while also keeping that cohesion. And, for me, I always tell people, it's not the old adage of, the Democrats are for the poor and Republicans are for the rich, or, the racist or anything like that. It's more of principles. We have, or I would say for the Republican Party, patriotism, police, belief in your police system, family values, etc. These are things that are overlooked because maybe sometimes far right or rhetoric things that we hear are the only ones that are getting the the spotlight on national television, and we need to bring more of that stuff to have an equal balance, right?
I agree.
Mario, where do you see the club going in the next couple of years now that you've increased and you have more visibility?
Into the stratosphere. We're already the largest club. We're already the most active club in the country. There's literally nowhere to go but up. And, you know, you take a look at 2024, we did a bus trip into, as a matter of fact, I think, weren't we all there?
We were
Weren't we all in Bucks County? In 2024, we sent about 100 people into Bucks County, Pennsylvania from New York City. That's never been done before. This year alone, we did a bus trip for Frank Morano in Staten Island, and we did a bus trip for Ina Vernikov. And we're going to do one or two more for George Sarantopoulos, that's for sure. And we may be doing another one in Staten Island to help out some of our candidates there, while also helping out the citywide candidates, because that's equally as important to raise up the entire slate and take care of the whole slate. But to answer your question head on, when you look at what we've seen over the past year or two, ever since 2020, COVID hit, the Black Lives Matter riots and protests hit, and then even just now, you know, in 2020, there was a questionable election. Did Joe Biden actually win that? I would argue he didn't. And the assassination attempt of President Trump and the successful, unfortunately, assassination of Charlie Kirk. All these events are, quite frankly, pissing people off and leading them to the right if they're not there already. So to answer your question head on, within 3 to 5 years, I could see our club being triple or quadruple the size, with maybe a clubhouse in every borough.
Now, Nick, you're more focused on the campaign part, and Chris, you're more focused on a county. Now, from the county level, obviously the Bronx is the stronghold of the Democratic Party in the national level. Like the Bronx has been dominated.
Yes.
Where do you see yourself pushing forward, knowing that you have some objectivity going on? Where do you go next? How do you maneuver around that?
For us right now, the main thing is recruiting as many people as we can get. I have done quite a few events which have brought on a few people, but you know, in getting started doing the Bronx Caucus, you know, I never had any experience of doing anything like that. So I was more focused on, like, you know, the what could get the most media attention to raise our profile, so that people have an incentive even to want to join the Bronx Caucus. And we haven't even been formed for a year yet. So this coming January will be 1 year. So for 2026, the goal is to get more people, because, again, as I've said so many times, there is a serious lapse, or gap rather, in Republican outreach in the Bronx. It seems that they're only very interested in you know, Pelham Bay and Morris Park and Throgs Neck, but there are a lot more Republicans throughout the borough than just those three, you know, easy locations that they continue to sort of suck dry. So.
Well, I know that you've done quite a bit of activities over the year. You had the Bronx's MAGA was one of them. You had recently you did you partnered with another organization to do, I believe it was like Walk for Life.
The March for Life.
March for Life, excuse me. And then you have other things that you're either a part of or working with. I know you're in, getting cooperation to get Curtis Silver in the Bronx.
Yes.
You know, doing all those things. Obviously, in different locations in the Bronx, you're bringing people out, giving them a reason to come out. So I would assume everything is building up, at least for that.
Yeah, I've met a lot of great people who, you know, they had no idea that there was even an active Republican Party in the Bronx. And, you know, I don't blame them for thinking that, but as long as there is a Bronx caucus, there will always be active Republican efforts in the borough. And, yeah.
You know, I'm an avid canvasser, so I walk around and knock on doors and talk to people. And, you know, in different locations, whether it's a Democratic stronghold or maybe a more liberal, there are individuals that are, let's say, Republicans or more right-centered individuals, maybe even common sense Democrats, but they don't feel comfortable coming out and talking about being, you know, closer to the right or moderates or anything like that. Nick, how do we go about trying to tell those people to feel more comfortable? Because, I mean, for example, for me, I know you have a clubhouse, which that would be like the epicenter, but how do you go about with the club to do that?
To make people more comfortable,
Yes.
we build an environment of comfort, to make them more comfortable. We build an environment of camaraderie, of fraternity, of sorority. We build a environment where people are allowed to be themselves finally. People are allowed to express their opinions openly to other people in New York City about Republicans and about conservatives, probably if you're a young person, for the first time in your life, where you have an environment where you can say whatever you want. That's never happened to a lot of people before. I'm blessed, but by the grace of God, I grew up in Long Island, and out there things are a little more 50-50, leaning towards Republicans, especially my hometown of Lake Grove, which borders Smithtown. I mean, Smithtown, the Republican, Ed Wareheim, who we endorse, is running for town supervisor, and he always wins by 75% or more. But to answer your question, when it comes to building an environment that people are more comfortable in, we're just offering them, more or less, we're just giving them free speech. They've never had that.
All right, so now I'm not a member, so it's not me promoting or advertising for them, but you have club meetings, that's one on a regular basis. You have event spaces like parties and galas. You have,
we have one tonight.
You have one tonight. Please, once I make this point, you also have event spaces that you do where you're doing, let's say, watch parties and stuff like that. And then you have your caucuses that you're expanding, not only just for any one particular demographics, but you're trying to hit them all. You have I believe a black caucus, a church caucus, or Catholic caucus, or art caucus, all these other things. Is there anything that I'm missing that maybe somebody listening might want to say, oh, I'm interested in that?
Anything, Chris?
Yes. I think, to go back to my point earlier about limited Republican outreach, I think that even if there, I mentioned the areas where, in the Bronx, I could only speak for the Bronx. Even in those areas where that outreach is being done, it's being done from the perspective of this sort of pre-Trump, sort of 90s era Republicanism. And people, around our age, I'm a little older than him, but it doesn't matter. The culture of republicanism now among youth is not what these people are sort of like putting out there. You know what I mean? There's a more hard right, and rightfully so, culture that is not being tapped into. Nobody cares about the sort of Reagan era stuff anymore. It's more, we've evolved past that, and this 90s, they're applying these 90s tactics to this era, and they're just losing because of that.
Well, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to throw a little bit more detail into one particular event that I went to recently. There was a Hispanic caucus that threw an event. I think there was Curtis Silva was there, many of the candidates in the Queens. There we go, it was Queen Caucus. And they had a room full of Hispanics that were, towards Republicanism. And it was a beautiful event to see because you don't see that many, in general, like I haven't, that many Hispanics in a room, all for one cause. And then on top of that, and it was in a Hispanic restaurant in a Hispanic neighborhood, especially with the tensions going on right now with the, the ICE raids and all that stuff. But if we look past, once again, this is the opposite of the rhetoric that we see, because we always hear how negative it is on the Hispanic community. Yeah. But you see that right there, that was a positive viewpoint in the Hispanic community where they're getting that information. And the objectives there are the same thing the Democrats are talking about: safety, housing, different things, just the way the approach is. I think that's one of those things where, let's say, somebody who eyes isn't open yet to a different form or open to other, party lines or methods of how to change the system are not going to get into until they see that more often, which I give you guys credit, not only now, but very often on the way you guys approach it. So kudos to you guys for getting that done. Now, do you guys see yourself partnering with any other bigger organizations or any, because, you do need friends in the area to work on. And, for me, I don't know that many Republican organizations or clubs since I'm not in those circles, but do you guys have any plans for something like that?
We're working on a variety of different strategic, call it alliances, if you will, many of which will be transpiring in the later end of this year and going into 2026, a good example, a huge shout out to the Long Island Loud Majority. That's Kevin Smith's organization. He does a great job out in Long Island. He had 5,000 people at the memorial for Charlie Kirk. God rest his soul. I think that and the college Republicans too. The college Republicans all across the 5 boroughs are doing a tremendous job. I was on the phone with 3 different chapters today. We do have strategic, I guess, call it alliances again, being built. Definitely more to come on that next year, considering the severity of the governorship race for the governorship.
And if I could just add one thing to that. The Bronx Caucus's last event was the Bronx and Westchester United,
Yes.
where we sort of formed this alliance with the Westchester County Republican Party. So, our branches are extending far beyond just the 5 boroughs, and that's very important, I think.
And that's a good unity, because in Westchester, some of the lines cross over to the Bronx, and whichever line, maybe a Senate line and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense right there.
Yes.
Well, before we get into the governorship, because I do want to talk about that, we have a mayor candidacy and citywide and city candidates going on. What do you guys? And you guys are going to an event soon regarding tonight for the mayoral
Tonight's
candidate?
the watch party for the debate.
And what are you guys expecting to turn out to be like?
I'm expecting one person to say something that doesn't make sense, a second person to say something that doesn't make even more sense, or makes even less sense, and one person that's relatively has common sense, and that'd be Curtis Lewa, of course.
Yes.
Politicians can use whatever phrases or phraseology they want in order to make their ideology sound good. The fact of the matter is, Andrew Cuomo was governor of our state for close to, I believe, 10 years, if I'm correct, and nothing got better. Nothing got better. And Zohran Mamdani has been in the assembly for, I don't think that long. I think since 2021 when he was inaugurated. I could be incorrect about that. Don't quote me on it. But what's he done? What ideas do these people have that are not utterly fanciful? I think the clear choice, I mean, on a personal capacity, I've made this abundantly clear, but I think the clear choice for mayor is Curtis Lewa. And when they get on the debate stage tonight, I'm pretty sure it's just them 3. When they get on the debate stage tonight, I'm expecting to hear only common sense from one person, and more than likely leftist, leaning towards socialist rhetoric from the other 2, and that's very dangerous for especially our city, but moreover our republic.
What about you, Chris?
I know a lot of Mamdani supporters, and I think that they are some of the most detached from reality people that I've ever met. Curtis, I've done a lot of projects with Curtis alongside with you, and I like the guy and I support him. That's.
Well, it's no secret that I'm a big Curtis fan, not because of just because we're working together, but more so his history. 30 plus years working in the community as an activist, and we've actually done some work with the Guardian Angels. More so, my part is providing resources and stuff like that. But in the time that I've been able to work more closely with him in the last year, I've seen things that I haven't seen ever. And I like to get a little more personal. When somebody, no matter the demographics or races, their economics, I've seen different types of people come up to him, shake his hand, and then you see a tear come down their eye because they're like, finally got to meet my hero, or someone that represents me or what I'm looking for. I wouldn't say anything too negative against his opponents, because their background speaks for themselves. You got a governor who resigned under disgrace and who has multiple harassment charges, which I assume if he makes it any further, you're going to see a bunch more pop out of nowhere. Well, they're somewhere, just they're waiting, I guess. And then an individual who you can't talk too. I don't think you can talk too much about his record while in office, although it's limited. As any person coming into the elective field, your seat placement, your status, your hierarchy makes it difficult for you to get laws passed in a short amount of time. But if you look at his track record before that, his work history, his background, his family, is not somebody that I know that I would want to be, representing me, compared to somebody who has, an open history book that we could read page by page for the last 30 years. I can't imagine. I can't believe we're in a situation where he is not the front runner in across the board. But that's where we are right now. Yeah. And if it's not for the individuals and organizations like the New York Young Republicans, where would we be? Because you guys, once again, I'm not a member, so I'm not advertising, but you guys are setting the standards for it to be pushed forward for candidates like not only the higher level ones, but the ground level and the local level as well. So I commend you guys on that.
I appreciate it.
Well, now that we covered the mayoralship, what do you guys think about the governorship next year?
What do you think, Chris?
I'm all for Stefanik. I think she's great. Obviously, I don't know as much about her as I should to, fully endorse. But based on what I'm seeing, I think she's the one.
And Nick?
I think that we need a common sense Republican. Someone that's going to be able to bridge the divide between Republicans and Democrats, left and right, and especially in a state as polarizing as New York, not polarized as New York, we're going to need somebody that is a figure people can come together around. Yes. At this particular time, I feel like that person is Elise Stefanik. Should she decide to run, and should she not, there's plenty of other people that exist that I've had conversations with, or maybe been in their networks or their circles, that I think would make phenomenal picks for a gubernatorial candidate. I would like to dispel the notion that we should be wasting millions and millions and millions of dollars on a primary. Not to say that we should install one candidate and make them run, no primary at all, but we need more Republican unity. Moreover, just overall, in not only the city but the state. So, is our Republican Party amazing in New York State? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I would say that to anybody, anywhere. I would say that's the chair to his face. And they know where I stand on that. But if the primary or the election were held today, I'd be pulling the trigger, so to speak, for Elise Stefanik, should she decide to run. And should it be somebody else that's just as good, as long as they're going to unite the left and the right, and as long as they're going to unite the base of the Republican Party.
Strong words. Now, with that situation coming up, where does the club stand? How do they pick who's going to be, like the delegates from the parties? I know they have a convention and they pick who they want from there, and they go through a roll call and all that stuff. How does the New York Young Republicans take their endorsement for that?
It's a great question. In terms of getting an endorsement from the New York Young Republican Club, a candidate needs to ask for our endorsement. That's just what we've always done. That's been tradition forever, since longer, maybe longer than I've been alive. It's been our tradition. The candidate needs to ask us for the endorsement, and then from there we would have a conversation, and we would do a series of less of an interview, more of just a conversation with the candidates. And if we feel like they are in line with our values and our beliefs and our principles, then we would choose to endorse them by a vote. Should that vote pass, we would endorse them ideally the same week, or maybe in many cases the same day. And then with that comes the ability to do events with us, and the ability for deployments. Like I've said before, we've done 40, 50, 60, 70, 100-man deployments for people before. For President Trump, for Frank Morano, for Ina Vernikoff, and they've all been overwhelmingly successful. But the process of getting the endorsements is quite simple. It's quite easy. All they have to do is ask.
Thank you, Sola. Now, Chris, for the individuals that want to join the group, participate, come to all this fun stuff that I'm hearing all about, how do they do that?
How can they reach out?
Yes, how can they reach out?
You could email us at bronx@nyyrc.com, or just follow us on Instagram, which is where we're most active, and that is Bronx Caucus, Bronx_caucus.
And Nick, if they want to reach the main party or request an endorsement, how do they go about doing that?
If you want to request an endorsement, if you're a candidate running for office, you would go to nyyrc.com, and everything is on our website. Excuse me. Everything is on our website in terms of filling out an endorsement and learning about who we've endorsed in the past. I believe we have all of our endorsements up at this time. We have all of our endorsements up from 2021 to now, I think. I know this year we've made a stellar series of endorsements that I'm very proud of. If you want to get to know more and learn more about what our club does and how we're able to effectuate change in the electoral process, it's nyyrc.com, and apply for the campaigns committee. And work with me and Chris on getting more Republicans elected across the city and eventually even further.
Now, I'm just going to ask real quick, because of time constraints, what are some plans for upcoming things that maybe might interest the audience? You have any planned events? I know you guys do a big gala every year. I'm sure either we passed or is coming up. Maybe Christmas thing, Halloween. Yeah,
so we have really 3 events. We have our Magoween event. We've done Magoween. I believe this is our 7th annual one. That's more of a Halloween party with a fun Trumpian spin to it. And we also have our forgetting the year that it was established first, but we have our annual gala coming up on December 13th at Cipriani Wall Street. Tickets are on Eventbrite, and that's always been a good time. I've been there, I think this would be my 4th or 3rd year in a row going to the gala. And on the 25th of this month, we have a massive party bus deployment, and I call it a party bus deployment for a reason because it's a great time, for George Sarantopoulos and the associated candidates in his overlap in South Brooklyn, Bay Ridge area. That's going to be an amazing time, and I think that we're going to win that seat by a lot.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for being on. For those that are interested on being on Political Chit Chat, please email me at gonzaloduranyc@gmail.com, or feel free to check out my social media and get to know me better at Gonzalo Duran NYC. Until then, and as always, God bless you and God bless America. Hello, everyone. This is Political Chit Chat, and I'm your host, Gonzalo Duran. I look forward to talking to you about local and global politics with local politicians, activists, and community leaders. Check us out on Manhattan Neighborhood Network on Tuesdays at 8:30 on the community channels. If you'd like to be a guest, feel free to email me at gonzaloduranyc@gmail.com. If you'd like to get to know me better, feel free to check out my social media at Gonzalo Duran NYC. Until then, and as always, God bless you and God bless America.